Strength isn't what makes something truly dangerous in this factory. Huggy Wuggy is nearly unkillable and still ends up as a tool. What this ranking measures is different. Who planned ahead, who manipulated others without being noticed, who built systems that outlasted their own presence, and who adapted when everything collapsed around them. 8 characters, 4 criteria, 1 question at the center of all of it. Not who could win a fight, but who was already 3 moves ahead before the fight started. Number 8, Huggy Wuggy. There's no evidence of planning here and no manipulation, just a predator doing exactly what he was designed to do. Huggy hunts by instinct, uses his size and speed as his only tools, and has no recorded capacity for anticipating what another person will do next. He fell multiple stories at the end of Chapter 1, survived, and came back to do the same thing again in Chapter 5. That persistence is impressive in a physical sense. Strategically, it's the clearest possible sign that he never considered an alternative approach. He doesn't adapt, he repeats. Number 7, Lily Lovebraids. Lily is more complicated than she first appears, which is part of why placing her here feels slightly unfair. Her braids are neurally wired extensions of her nervous system, which means she processes spatial information and physical coordination at a level that goes beyond most experiments in the factory. In a fight, she's unpredictable and fast. The problem is that everything we know about her points to a mind that was shaped almost entirely by conditioning. She was brought into Playcare as Gracie Green, molded through the same programs that produced CatNap's disciples. And by the time she became Lily Lovebraids, she was operating inside a framework the prototype built. There's intelligence there, but it was never fully her own. Number 6, CatNap. CatNap organized the Hour of Joy, built a functional religion inside Playcare, kept the surviving children sedated, and locked Miss Delight in the school to prevent her from becoming a problem. None of that is accidental. He understood how to use belief as a control mechanism, which is a specific kind of psychological intelligence most characters in this game don't have. What limits him is that every decision he made was ultimately in service of someone else's vision. He never asked whether the prototype's agenda was worth following, and when the prototype decided he was no longer necessary, CatNap had nothing to fall back on. Capable executor, not an independent mind. Number 5, Mommy Longlegs. She reads people quickly and adjusts her approach mid-sentence, which is harder than it sounds. The game station sequence is the clearest example. She shifts from warmth to threat to bargaining inside a single conversation, testing which register gets the most compliance. She also understands that the player's survival instinct can be redirected, so she doesn't just chase, she creates rules and then punishes breaking them. That's psychological manipulation with structure behind it. Where she falls short is in anticipating outcomes beyond the immediate interaction. Her plan for what happens if the player actually wins the games is non-existent, and her breakdown when the prototype intervenes confirms she had no model for a scenario where her leverage disappeared entirely. Number 4, Poppy. Poppy spent an unknown number of years in a glass case unable to move, and she used that time to build a complete picture of the factory, its vulnerabilities, and what kind of person she'd need to execute her plan. By the time the player arrives, she already knows the sequence of events she needs to trigger and how long the cooperation needs to last. She manages the player's trust carefully, offers exactly enough honesty to maintain the relationship, and withholds everything that would complicate it. The train switch at the end of Chapter 2 is the moment that reveals her best. She doesn't explain it, doesn't ask permission, just acts because she'd already calculated that the player would accept it. Long-term planning, psychological calibration, 0 wasted moves. The gap between her and the top 2 is that she was ultimately working within constraints the prototype set long before she made hers. Number 3, Elliot Ludwig. Ludwig's intelligence doesn't announce itself, which is probably how it stayed hidden long enough to work. He designed the institutional architecture that kept the Bigger Bodies initiative running for decades without public exposure. The legal structure of Playtime Co., the commercial products that generated funding, the Playcare system that provided both subjects and cover, the conditioning programs that produced compliant experiments. He wasn't the most technically skilled person in his own company, but he understood something more useful: how to build systems that outlast the people who build them. The factory is still running his design long after his disappearance. Most people walk through it without realizing the whole structure is a decision he made. Number 2, Dr. Harley Sawyer. Sawyer sits at the intersection of scientific knowledge and survival instinct in a way nobody else on this list does. His self-experimentation was not reckless. He understood exactly what the bigger body's process did to a human nervous system, and he used that understanding to design a version of it that preserved his mind rather than just his body. The server infrastructure built by Leith Pierre in Chapter 4 was built to Sawyer's specifications, which means he solved the problem of his own consciousness before he needed to. That's anticipation at a technical level that's genuinely rare. He also adapted twice, once when he chose to transform, and again when he found a way to keep functioning after the hour of joy left him isolated inside his own systems. What keeps him from the top position is that his intelligence eventually collapsed inward. He stopped modeling what other people would do and focused entirely on his own continuation, which made him easier to find and easier to remove. Number 1, the prototype. Everything that happens in this factory, including Poppy's plan, Sawyer's survival architecture, Ludwig's entire institutional design, unfolds on terrain the prototype already mapped. He survived dismemberment and rebuilt himself from pieces of other experiments, which required both technical understanding of how the bigger body's system works and the strategic patience to do it without alerting the rest of the factory. He let CatNap run PlayCare, let Poppy believe she had leverage, let the player progress far enough to be useful, and then removed each piece when it stopped serving him. The clearest sign of where he sits relative to everyone else isn't any single action. It's that nobody in the factory, not Ludwig who designed it, not Poppy who planned inside it for years, not Sawyer who restructured his own mind to survive it, ever built a contingency for what would happen if the prototype decided they were done. He didn't need to outmaneuver them. He just waited for them to finish. What this ranking ends up showing is that Poppy Playtime isn't really a game about monsters. It's a game about what happens when intelligence operates without ethical limits. Ludwig built a machine. Sawyer rebuilt himself inside it. Poppy used it. The prototype inherited it and decided it wasn't finished yet. The characters at the bottom of this list aren't less interesting because they're less smart. They're more honest. They do exactly what they are. The ones at the top are dangerous precisely because what they are is never entirely visible. And somewhere underneath all of it, the factory is still running. Where Chapter 5 leaves it. What Chapter 5 confirms is that Poppy was always the priority. Everything the prototype did across 5 chapters, the manipulation, the patience, the years of planning, led back to getting her. He tells her to come home. He damages her face during the tea party but stops short of destroying her. He wanted her contained, not dead. You were never the target. You were the variable he had to manage while he got to her. Now he has her. Poppy is captured. The tool has served its function, and the protection that came from being useful to him may not extend past this point. If Chapter 6 happens and everything points toward it being inevitable, the question isn't why the prototype kept you alive through 5 chapters. That has answers, most of them outlined here. The question is whether any of those reasons still apply now that he has what he wanted. Because for 5 chapters, your survival was part of his plan. The part that's genuinely unsettling isn't what he did. It's that you don't know yet whether the plan changed.